because you don't need me for the start.
Well, hello, folks. It looks like we've got a little bit of a delay today. So maybe somebody send me a text message or a message saying, hey, you're hearing me and things are okay. And all right, I'm starting to get some notices. Well, good morning. Um, my name is Rich Dunsworth. It's July 10th. It is 11 a.m. and we're giving a campus update. Folks, if you've not done this before, feel free to send me questions or comments in the comment section. I have a series of things I'd like to cover with you, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then we're going to do some questions. So let's start with the basics. Guys, let's talk about masks. So the one I'm wearing now is my least favorite. Why is it my least favorite? Well, the whole thing on the ears just doesn't work for me. All right. But this size of mask is perfect for the pocket. It goes in my pocket, my jeans. I've always got one in them so that when I'm out in the yard and I'm doing my own thing and a neighbor steps up and wants to talk to me and maybe they're not doing this whole social distancing thing, the mask comes out of my pocket and goes on my face. Now, another one that I don't particularly like, but my sons seem to really like, is this one that goes up and around your whole face. Now, I don't think I like this one because this reminds me of skiing in Colorado. And I had a 10-day ski trip to Colorado planned prior to COVID-19 and it got canceled. So I don't really like that one very much at all. But again, the boys like it a great deal. My favorite one was made by one of our alums and former director of development, Reba Pridgeon. I like it because it has elastic and it can just sit around my neck at all times. And then when I need to bring it up, it just pops on like that. And I never have to worry about where it is. It is always right there. Now, why am I stressing the whole mask things? Folks, this is going to be one of those things that when we reopen or repopulate, and that's going to be the focus of the next 10 minutes, masks are a must. And it really is a must. It's everybody. Students, faculty, staff, if you're allowed to visit as a guest, you're going to have to wear a mask. Now, showed you the examples of the cloth ones that go up and over. We're also going to talk a little bit about what does it look like to have a shield, because there are some other choices, especially for faculty that are teaching, so that people can see their lips. You know, where the shield comes down, there's still the barrier, but you can see lips. So know that we're going to work through all of that as we reopen. Students, to preempt a couple of questions, you do not need to go on a shopping spree. Now, if you want all colors to match your shoes and your belts and that kind of stuff, and you're going to turn them into style, you might need to do a little shopping. But when you get here, we're going to issue you at least a couple of the kind that can go in a washer, dryer. We're going to issue you the kinds of things to help you be safe. But again, if you want them to match every wardrobe, go for it. Make them as stylistic as possible. And I don't know, maybe student affairs will create some competitions on who's got the most stylish mask. Please know that my engineer is shaking her head at me. Again, for those who don't know, Holly's sitting on the other side of the desk and will be feeding me information should you have any questions. So we're the first week of July, and I told you were going to get answers this week, and we're going to give you some answers, and then early next week, we're going to publish a document that's about 35, 36 pages that can allow you to really look through and see as much as possible. 2019-20, I'm not sad to say that I'm glad that year is closed, and now we're in the 2021 year. but the first 10 days of 2021 in Johnson County well, it's been a little rough. We've seen numbers going up in terms of new cases. We're seeing more challenges, and it makes me nervous. Um, but we are proceeding with the idea that we will repopulate campus, and that we will be in class as much as we can. So with that, I want to share a couple of things. So first, I want to share six principle statements, and then I'll get into a couple of details. What's guiding our plan? And please know the word plan means fluid. It's a fluid, living plan. As we get new, better, different information, we make adjustments. So the first guiding principle will fulfill our mission and meet our standards of excellence. All right? Those of you who know me well know that when I do a presentation, the mission slide is the second slide always. The health and safety of our community is paramount, is the second statement. Health and safety has to be paramount so that we can focus on education and focus on transformative experiences. Number 3, science, evidence, and pragmatism will guide our decisions. Science, evidence, and pragmatism will guide our decisions. Number 4, we will be flexible and innovative in the face of evolving circumstances. We're evaluating things that come from the Department of Health, things that come from the governor, things that come from Washington, things that come from the CDC, the World Health Organization, but it's our commitment to be flexible and innovative. We will provide inclusive and equitable solutions, and we will heed our responsibility to ensure that the university's financial strength and stability is protected. We're a 186-year-old institution, and we plan to turn 200. We plan to turn 250. We won't let a short-term bubble, whether that short-term is 6 months or 18 months, harm the long-term future of the institution. So that's where we are. So what does that mean in terms of pragmatically what's going to happen? Well, starting on July 20th, that's a week from Monday, we'll start repopulating the campus with faculty and staff, namely staff that have been working remotely. And we'll start working to repopulate offices at thresholds. And for us, we've got some offices that you all know that folks sit pretty close to each other. So we're making some adjustments to figure out how to start bringing people back. Then you fast forward another week, and we'll bring back another set of folks. All as we approach that first week in August, where we start seeing student staff return, we start seeing our new partners, Greystone, the Prep Academy, their students will start arriving. You'll start seeing fall athletes start to arrive as we move closer and closer to opening of the school year. So how are we going to teach classes, and what does this look like? So we've been doing an analysis of every piece of property the university owns, in looking at, well, how do I teach a class of 20? What does it take? Well, a class of 20 takes about half of a tennis court. Wow, right? You know, knowing most of our classes are in the 16 to 20 range, they're going to use some really large spaces. Here are some of the spaces that you're probably going to see as classrooms. The stage of the C Theater, right? You pull back the curtain, and that great big space can be a classroom. It can allow for movement, but can also protect students, protect their safety. Think about the conference center. Conference center is a great space, collapsible walls, couple 2, 3, 4 large classrooms. So know that we're working through so that even some of our smaller classes of 10 may be in larger spaces so that folks can move as needed, but so that with a mask on, we're safe, and that we're doing our very best to ensure that that we've done our part. Couple of things that are going to happen over the next couple of weeks, and I know that some students are going to get anxious when I say this, but we're going to need to move some student housing around. What does that look like? We have to create spaces to quarantine students, and we're going to do that so that should a student get sick, or more, my fear is should a student be exposed and need to be quarantined for 14 days, we can put them in a space that doesn't cause additional harm to anyone else, and they can log in and attend class. Well, how do I attend class from my residence hall room or my apartment? We're installing technology so that should I have to be quarantined, I'm in my go-to. I'll use him because I keep using his classes as my go-to. I'm in one of Dr. Dipple's classes. I know that there's great value in being in class. Well, we'll be equipping those rooms so that he's recording his lectures. He's recording his class so that you can either in real time log in and watch class, or the minute class is over, it'll post to Canvas so that you can then participate and see what happened in class. Our preference is face-to-face, socially distanced as appropriate, but we know there's some allowances there. The other piece, in addition to that hybrid format, is that we know that some of our classes are going to be online. Those classes that we know, one, that we can deliver well, and deliver up to our standards, and some of that, quite honestly, is to protect our faculty. That maybe that faculty member is of an age where they're at the highest risk category. Or maybe that faculty member has a family member that's at the highest risk category. So we've already identified those classes. And when students, you start seeing the fall schedule, you're going to see some language out to the side. If you see online, you know that class is 100% online. Right now, that's about 40% of our classes. If you see a hybrid, you know that class at any time, maybe half the class is in the classroom, half the class is doing something else. And if you don't see those codes, you know that class is predominantly planned for face-to-face, but all of our faculty spent the month of June preparing to pivot if they have to. All right? So that's kind of the general pieces. So pivot if they have to. We already know that November 23rd, that's the Monday of Thanksgiving, we will pivot to online, right? So Monday, that weekend, anybody who can go home will be saying, please go home for the winter holiday. We'll pivot that week. It's the last 4 or 5 days of classes, and then we'll have finals, and we'll wrap up about a week earlier than planned. That'll create a longer winter holiday. Now, how are we ending a week earlier than planned? And please, how? Labor Day is now a teaching day. Fall break is gone. Once you arrive and start school, we will do Monday through Friday nonstop till we get to Thanksgiving. And that allows us to pull finals back a week. That allows everybody to go home for about 7 weeks for us to then start up again in January. For any of my folks who go, but I can't go home, I've never gone home, breathe easily. We know that. Just as we still have students on campus now from the first issues, we're going to have students in January, and we'll work through that with you. For folks who might go, well, what do you mean I don't get a fall break? We don't want you going away. Once you're here, the idea of giving you a 4-day break and go travel, go do stuff, we're going to take that break away, and we'll give it to you in the end of the semester. For folks who go, hold it, Labor Day is a federal holiday. Please don't make it a political statement. I'm not saying anything about Labor Day. I'm putting health and safety above a federal holiday. I'm putting health and safety and the ability to deliver a degree above that. I am not saying I undervalue or don't value that. I'm just putting one above the other. And I hope that folks will go, okay, that makes sense. It's not a permanent change, it's for a semester. With that, um, what about athletics? What about athletics? Right now, and you heard that qualify. Right now, our athletic conference is continuing to plan for fall athletics. Some seasons may be shortened, some travel plans may change. That we're still believing that there will be a fall athletic schedule and a fall athletic program. We're our athletic trainers for the American Southwest Conference, working with the medical staff of the NCAA, has prepared a very comprehensive plan to ensure safety. Um, my fear is that folks won't want to follow the restrictions as it relates to personal protective equipment, as it relates to masks, as it relates to a lot of things. But know that we're planning for us to be able to have a cross country and soccer. Those are the first that kick it off, and then we'll move into the later fall and winter sports. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions. So please, Holly, what have we heard?
How will the Jones Learning Center operate under these social distancing guidelines?
All right, how will the Jones Learning Center operate? Case by case, individual by individual. So there are a couple of things. The comments about masks, this kind of mask versus a clear mask. We know that for some of our students that have learning differences, this type of mask will be an issue because of ways in which we process information. So for students, we'll be working through, okay, we need your faculty members to be in a clear mask so that you can process the way you process. We'll need your tutors to do the same thing. That you'll need the support to be able to operate similarly. At the moment, we're evaluating what of that support can be done in this kind of format, in a Zoom format, what type of support has to be done face to face, but 6 feet apart. And that's, as I mentioned, we're evaluating every space for classrooms. We're also evaluating space as it relates to one-on-one or two-on-one support. So it may be that you're not able to meet with staff in the same building in the same way you were in the past, but that we're working through all of the different configurations so that we can continue to support you at a way that allows you to be successful and allows you to thrive. If you have specific questions that as we talked about that phased in repopulating, members of the Learning Center will be repopulating in a week, and we can start working through those one by one.
When should students expect to see updated schedules?
When should students expect to see updated schedules? This is not a promise, but it's a goal. Our goal is the updated schedule will only show changes in modality and changes in room location. Right now, we're working really hard to protect the schedule as you registered so that we're not creating havoc. And we're pretty close to being able to say, hey, we can honor the schedule as it is. Classrooms are going to be in very different places, but that it is as it is. And then when we deliver the modality piece, there may be students that say, okay, I want to switch sections for modality, but we're going to try not to make you do that. Why am I hedging my bets? Some of this is requiring us to remove walls. Some of this is requiring us to put new doors in spaces that didn't have doors. And Donnie Frost and maintenance is analyzing. Some of this requires adding air conditioning to spaces. Those are the kinds of things that we're working through, and it's my bet we're going to have that finalized by the end of today on whether we can get all that done, and then Monica in the registrar's office will plug it all in and see where the pressure points are. We'll publish it as quickly as possible. What I want you to assume is that the schedule is not going to be changed as significantly as we once thought. And I know I didn't give you a date. I'm sorry.
How are books going to work if classes are both online and face-to-face?
How are books going to work? The plan is that the bookstore will provide you with your learning materials just as they have in the past, or at least the past year. And that when you, what I believe will happen is that when you walk into your living space, if you're on campus with us, those materials will already be there. That we're going to do what we can to limit the amount of interaction, so you're not over at the bookstore standing in a line. We're going to pre-package and have them sitting there. For off-campus students, we'll work on the delivery for you to pick them up. For a student that maybe is stuck across a border and won't be arriving until October, we'll work through that one by one. And for any student in that situation, please let Nicole Justice know, hey, my embassy isn't going to let me travel until X. Our assumption going into this is that you're still our student, you're still our registered student, and you're still going to do the fall semester, and that the onus is on us to find the solution so that you can finish your fall semester.
Could you elaborate more on plans for on-campus housing and how students will be notified if their housing assignment changes?
All right, so plans for on-campus housing is the first part. Plans for on-campus housing, that we will open all of our facilities, that more likely than not, when you're checking in, you're going to start hearing language like family unit, where you're going to be, another way of thinking about it is pods. You know, Holly and I are a family unit with our 3 children. We don't wear a mask inside the house, even though Holly is probably only 5 feet away from me. Our assumption is that you'll create family units like that. Much of that will be in housing. Our assumption is that after we've been open a while, those family units might actually be allowed to sit at a table and eat a meal together, right? Because they're a family unit. They've already been in those spaces. So those room assignments, that they've been made. If there's going to be a change to your room assignment, Ms. Huckfeld will be making those in the next week and getting that information out. If you don't hear a change, don't worry about it. The changes we have to make, and I don't have permission, and you all know that sometimes I share things I shouldn't, but I will. Think about spaces where you can drive to a door and deliver food and treat somebody. North Street apartments, College Avenue apartments. Those are the spaces that are being evaluated for quarantine. Why? Because you don't have to walk through a hallway, and the health department could walk to a door to do whatever they need to do. The word was evaluated. And why is it the evaluated? Part of that is about how many beds do we have to have empty to be approved to reopen. And that's what we're working through. So if you're in those spaces, please don't reach out to Caitlin. Know that she's running as many different scenarios as possible, and she's now moving into the decision mode of going, I've got to just pull the trigger on some things, and she's working on as cool a solutions as she can possibly do to make you comfortable and hopefully make you happy. So know that that's what we're working through, is what kind of spaces can we accommodate. We won't be using McLean or Smith or King as quarantine spaces because it's just not practical.
Please tell us how you think dining services will work, including campus perks and Eagle's Nest.
All right. The plan for dining services for all of those spaces will be grab and go, and ways that you can get food without putting yourself at risk for somebody walking by or next to you. The assumption is that it's grab and go for the first couple of weeks, 14 days, 15 days, that we get into this rhythm. And then when I talked about family units, well, if I'm sleeping 6 feet from Holly, 10 feet from Holly in a residence hall room, what are you protecting me from? Well, could I grab my lunch and sit down at a two-top and have lunch with my roommate? If I'm traveling with my soccer team and we're on a bus and we're sharing hotel rooms and all those kinds of things, we become a family unit. Can we share meals? And that's the kind of decisions, those are the kinds of decisions we'll be able to make after 14 days. After everybody's here, we know what our status is, then Josh Gorman, working with Vice President Morrill, will start going, okay, now how do we release? And how do we release? And that's our goal, is that as we know we've kind of become a bubble, we'll release. That's why it goes back to no 3-day weekends, no 4-day weekends, and limiting the amounts of in and outs, knowing that there are going to be ins and outs every day.
On that note, will on-campus students be allowed to go off campus, like to Walmart or a gas station or a restaurant in town?
Oh my. Will they be allowed? Yes. And part of it's remember I used the word pragmatism as one of our goals. Know that we have gone so far as to discuss, do we put gates on the parking lots? Right? And know that when I say we, that was me. I said, do we put gates on the parking lots that allow, so that when people swipe, we know who's moving and who's coming in? And we decided that was just too far. But as someone who lives in Clarksville, the scariest place in town is Walmart. And that's not a dig on the family. I mean, folks, walk our campus. You know that's not a dig on Walmart as a corporation or the Walton family. It is you walk in and people are wearing their masks here, or they're wearing their masks here, or they're not at all, and it makes me anxious and nervous, because I think about if I'm exposed and I bring it back to campus, what happens? And so that's my fear for us, is that we're not going to restrict that, but we sure hope that in those first couple of weeks, folks take it easy. You know, we have talked about, do we quarantine for the first 14 days and lock things down? Well, no. But we're going to go, let's watch where we go. Let's try to not travel as very much. I've asked folks to think about C-store, convenience store kinds of things on campus at no profit. That if you need a gallon of milk or a quart of milk and a box of cereal, don't go to Walmart, go to the bookstore and get it. Know that those are the kinds of things we're trying to set up so that we can really limit that. Long-winded way of saying you're going to be able to travel in Clarksville, and I'm going to ask you to be safe. Don't put the community at risk, and don't put us at risk.
How will this impact student clubs and organizations?
How will this impact student clubs or organizations? Student clubs and organizations still exist. Last night, we had a wonderful program of about 40 people that was sponsored by the Black Student Association. I think they role modeled for us how clubs and organizations can keep working. They've been working and planning a program across 3 states. One person was in a national park. I mean, I don't know that I'd plan to use them as an example, but they're showing how to do it. They're working with Taylor, they're working with their advisor, and as far as I know, they haven't done any face-to-face at-risk kinds of behavior. I assume the same kind of thing is going to happen with student organizations. What you're going to see in the plan is language that says all face-to-face student activities have been suspended. I think the word might be canceled. All face-to-face student activities have been canceled. The very next line is, we encourage student organizations working with student engagement to find ways to do it otherwise. Remember back to the the innovation and creative. Let's find ways to still have student engagement. Let's find ways to be student activities, but we're not going to walk into the Bruning room sitting shoulder to shoulder listening to a speaker. We're just not.
What about work study positions?
What about work study positions? If the work study position is necessary and vital to what we're doing, they'll still be. We need work study to help us deliver on the mission of the institution. We need student employment, and our assumption is we're still going to have it. It may be modified, it may be a little different. Student tutors may need to figure out how to do tutoring without sitting shoulder to shoulder. But I think about, let's say here, I'm tutoring in math. Great. I'm going to get in an empty classroom. I'm going to use a whiteboard, and the person I'm tutoring sitting 10 feet from me. That's honoring the intent, the spirit, and the rule. It just means I can't use the small room in the Robson Library to tutor anymore. I need a big empty classroom. Well, guess what? A whole lot of our classrooms are going to be big empty classrooms because they're not big enough to teach 18 students in and do 6 feet apart.
How do you foresee changes in the roles of OEMs and RAs? And what are the current plans for first week?
Okay, that question has a lot of nuance to it and a whole lot of detail that I know nothing about. All right, the question was, how do I see the changes RA and orientation leaders changing? I'm going to do a little projection. 30 plus years ago, I was an RA. 30 plus years ago, I was an OEM, an orientation leader. And then as a professional, I've done those roles or supervised those roles. I think being an orientation leader this year will be probably the most challenging year you'll ever experience. Because the things that orientation leaders do most naturally, they touch people. I mean, not in creepy ways, but they go, hey, let's get together, and they pull and prod and they get in people's spaces for all the right reasons, and we're going to go, you can't do that. Or, please don't do that. Well, what's going to replace it? I've been asked, are you going to do freshman dinners? Folks know I love doing freshman dinners. It's my 90 minutes in the fall semester with freshmen in a groups of 20. Well, can I do those this year? Those are the questions that we're working through. So OEMs, I've seen your training schedule. I've been asked to spend a day with you doing mediation training. RAs. Been asked to do a day of training with you, and I'm like, well, how do I do a day of mediation training? Because I'm accustomed to being able to standing over people's shoulders going, have you considered? So know that we're working through all of that in a way to keep it as normal, traditional. The word normal is awful. Traditional, but it's going to change. RAs, I'm sorry to say this, but for the first 12 days, you're going to be the mask police. And it's not going to be fun. But I'm going to ask it of you. And it's the weird things. I'm in King Hall. I'm walking down the hall. Do I have to have a mask? Yes. Because somebody might step out of their room. And then we're face to face. So we've got to have masks. And RAs, it's going to be challenging and it might be a little uncomfortable. But those first couple of weeks, you're going to be the mask police. At the same time, I hope you're the reassurance police or reassurance squad going, we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. And a degree is 4 years, not 6 months. And when we look back on our 4 years, we'll talk about the 6 months or the year and go, wow, that was a trip. As you get into the more details of RE and OEM, RA, I don't know what RE, RA and OEM come in, leave that to Taylor and Caitlin and Dean Morrill.
Can you talk a little bit about what you think housing will look like for students who are arriving early on campus, like athletes and those RAs and OEMs?
Okay, what will housing look like for those people who are arriving early? A lot like it is normal. That if you've arrived early before, you step onto a floor and you go, really? I'm the only person here? Or if you know your roommate and your roommate's arriving early, you step on a floor and it's just you and your roommate, you're going to get early orientation on, okay, wow, there are directions on where to walk. Yeah, there are directions on where to walk. There are entrance doors and exit doors. You'll get a little bit of a leg up in figuring out how campus is going to work and feel, because it's going to work and feel differently. I haven't heard anything to suggest that you won't go into your room. There may be training reasons you're in a different building, but my understanding is you're moving into your room. There are limitations on what move-in looks like, and they're working through that. We do move-in pretty cool, where the whole world moves you in that fast. Well, in that kind of space, the whole world touched your stuff, or your stuff touched the whole world. So we're going to be paring that down and being much more, I like the word militaristic. The military knows how to do stuff very methodically. That's how we're looking at move-in, it's going to be very methodical.
Will COVID testing be required for students before they arrive on campus?
Will COVID testing be required for students? Not all students. That it's impractical. Would I like to say everybody has to be tested? Sure. I know some folks that were tested earlier this week, and a 3-day return is now a 5-day return, and now maybe a 7-day return. Some students, because of their specific circumstances, we may ask, hey, bring a test with you to be able to expedite what we're going to do. For those of you that are going, well, who are those? Think about a soccer practice. Might we want you to bring a test with you so that we can allow you to practice before you've been here for 15 days? Those are the things they're working through. If you don't, we will give you as much notice as we can on whether you need to bring a test with you. We're also working with different folks in the community and the region. The governor has allocated funds to do collegiate testing, but we still don't have the details. Folks, we're at 37 minutes into this. I will keep going, and if the number of attendees starts dropping, it is what it is. I'll keep going, and we'll be moving back into weekly updates from here until we're fully open. So, Polly, next question.
Can you please talk about commencement from May and then for the upcoming December?
Can I talk about commencement? I have nothing new. I can't do commencement safely, therefore I won't do commencement. Well, what about December? We're already talking about December as a virtual, and that it is more likely than not that we will charge the commencement group to not even try to plan face-to-face, and that we do a full-blown virtual commencement for December as a way to practice and try. The May graduates were saying, well, what about September? No, it's not going to happen. Yeah, it can't happen. And when I know we can do commencement safely, we'll do it. But until then, we'll have to find virtual or other creative ways to go about it.
If commuters are in a hybrid class and they want to participate in that class online, as if they were a student who was quarantined, can they choose to do that to save on their travel costs to campus?
So the question is, hey, I'm commuting, and my class is being offered in a hybrid environment where some students are face-to-face, some students are not. That is between you and the faculty member. That if the faculty member says, yes, you can meet the learning goals by logging in. I mean, folks, most of you know my son's a student. He could say, hey, I'm not going to walk across the street. Now, should he do that? That's between him and his faculty member. If the faculty member says, hey, great, you're going to be on the Monday hybrid, which means on Mondays, you're at home. And on Wednesdays, you're in class. And Fridays, everybody's in class. That's between the student and the faculty member. And when I say between, that's really the decision of the faculty member to go hold it. So you want to do it all hybrid. Basically, you're turning my class into an online class, and I didn't design it that way. But it's worthy to ask.
What do students do who want to come back to campus early?
Students who want to come back to campus early. No. Folks, back to my militaristic, methodical, we're pulling people back into our community, and I love that you go, I can't wait, please let me come back early. No, because as every new group comes in, we're testing systems and processes, and want isn't enough. If you think your want triggers enough of a reason for you to come back early, email Dean Morrill. Sorry, Luke. Email Dean Morrill and tell him why you think your want is enough, but expect a no.
Is there an option in town for students to do Instacart or have deliveries from Harps instead of going off campus to get supplies?
Is there an option on campus to do Instacart and deliveries to campus? I don't know. I know we're pretty big fans of the pickup. I will answer that question next week. And no, I'll do a different commitment. We'll have a solution by the time you get here. And we may be running our own. You know what that sounds like to me? A great work-study job, right? Where we, and maybe we partner with a couple of our businesses. We figure out how to get this stuff ordered, and you're picking up. You know, I think about Greta Marlowe. Dr. Marlowe runs a community farm. And we pick up, we didn't do this year, but last year we met her at the police department every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and our box was already ready to go for what she knew we liked, what we didn't like, and every now and then she threw in things that she thought we should explore with. I think 7 weeks is enough time for us to find a solution. Dean Morrill? Vice President Morrill? I'm not making light of it, folks, but it's a great question, and I think it's worthy us, sending a pickup or a cargo van to pick stuff up. We'll just figure out the logistics.
Will there be matriculation?
I want to ask who asked that question, because that question breaks my heart. Will there be a matriculation? Not like we normally do. We can't bring people into the chapel. We can't have pins going across the sacraments table. We can't do it. And will there be one? Sure. There will be an official welcoming to the campus, but it'll be completely different. And it'll just be completely different. And I think, folks, that's a really good example of the role of touch. This campus touches each other, whether it's sharing that coin. It's the coolest thing to hand somebody their coin, or to take it back, or to watch them throw their coin in the chapel, or in the fountain. It's the coolest thing. For me, I get to do two things that I get to shake their hand and welcome them to campus, and then shake their hand and say good luck in life. That touch. Think about your faculty. Telling your faculty they can't get within 6 feet of you, it feels like hazing. And now the fact that we're going, hey, we're going to let you bring them back to class. They're going to be in a classroom environment, but don't get close to them. You know your faculty. You know your coaches. You know our people. It feels like hazing to say, great, we're going to let people come back, but then we're going to go stay 6 feet away. Don't touch. Don't. But it's what we have to do.
A couple more housing questions.
Yes.
When is move-in day for returning students? And will there still be quads in the residence halls?
What's moving day for returning students? It's staggered. I can't do it off the top of my head, and I'll just get in trouble. Um, you're 6 weeks out. Sit tight. You'll have it quickly. There's an important date sheet on the plan that's all of these kinds of things, just one right after the other. Hang tight. Will there still be quads where they can be safe? Yes, and that's a great example of a family unit. They become a family unit, and we honor that we're familial.
You have a request for further clarification on testing.
Okay.
If students are arriving from states with high numbers of COVID cases, will they be required to quarantine or be tested upon arrival?
There has been no decision made on that. And I know if I'm one of those folks and going, well, that's not a very good answer. Numbers are changing daily. So if we make a decision today, it's highly that decision's going to change on Monday. All right? That we're getting new advice, different advice, and you know we're trying. Some of those are going to be game day decisions. At the moment, we have not said, hey, if you're coming from X state, you have to prove you're healthy. At this moment, we're not doing that. I mean, quite honestly, because if we tell a state they have to, then I'm probably going to have to tell Johnson County. And for those of you who don't know, that's our county. So if I apply those kinds of metrics methodically, I'll probably be telling the student who lives across the street, hey, I have to have a test for you to walk 50 feet. So that those are our tensions, and it really is a tension of opposites. Folks, I think that's the last of the questions. We went at about 45 minutes. Know that we'll start doing these weekly again, and that we'll do as much as we can. I know that sometimes my answers are not as direct as folks would like, and I know sometimes when you just get told no by the president in front of several hundred people, that doesn't feel so good either. But it is what it is, and it's where we are. Know that we've got amazing people that are working as hard as they can to find solutions. One of my favorites is, it sounds like a giant sprinkler system. You know, you guys know I grew up farming, that there's this giant sprinkler that's going to get pushed in a room and disinfect the entire room like that. And I go, well, that's pretty cool. But then I go, if there are 25 classes every hour on the hour, how do you disinfect 25 rooms and have them ready to reopen in less than 8 minutes? Anybody that's been on a plane and before you can get off, everybody's trying to clean it so they can turn the plane around that fast? That's what it feels like we're planning for. How do you turn around a classroom? How do you have redundancy? How do you keep people safe? It's also why we're going to be saying, hey, can you walk this way? Hey, can you walk this way? Hey, can you just put on a mask to plan for the unavoidable? It's why if you happen to be Clarksville and you're listening in and I say things like, I'm sorry, no visitors, I mean it. I'm sorry, no visitors. We've got to figure this out with our students before we can say, hey, visitors are welcome. For anybody on the screen that's saying, well, what about First Presbyterian Church? Are they a visitor or are they a partner? They're a partner. And we have a very specific plan for them repopulating and coming back. And that will be targeted specifically to the church. And I'm not going to broadcast it to the whole world. We're going to work with them and their constituents to allow them to come back. For those who don't understand what that means, there is a congregation, First Presbyterian Church, our mother congregation, worships in our chapel. So know that we're working through those kinds of things. When folks go, well, what about the Rotary that has lunch every week in the conference center? The conference center is turning into a classroom and an academic space. There are no conferences. There are no outside speakers. No face-to-face outside speakers. We just can't do it. We're going to protect the academic mission of the institution, and a lot of the extra things that we do that support it, we're going to curtail those until we know how to do them safely. With that, I respond to email within 24 hours, or do my darndest to respond to email within 24 hours. If you've got a specific question, it's rdunsworth@ozarks.edu. If you have a solution to one of our problems, offer it. I'm cool with that. I'm great with that. Our former registrar who retired 2 years ago sent me possible solutions last week, and I'm like, what you're doing in retirement is trying to find solutions to our challenges. And she's like, well, it's how I'm wired. Great. If you've got ideas, kick them to me. Or kick them to other people of the campus, and we're gonna do our best. As you've heard me say many times, we're gonna make mistakes. When we do, we're gonna say, I'm sorry, and we're gonna make a different decision, and we're gonna move on. It's a fluid living plan. And with that, I end it the same way I always do. Say a prayer for us. Say a prayer for the millions of people around the world that are dealing with COVID-19. Say a prayer for the researchers, the doctors, the world leaders that are trying to figure out other solutions. And while you're at it, say a prayer for us. And with that, God bless, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye-bye.